Hello, welcome again to this video tutorial on how to format Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter Notebook is a web-based interactive computing notebook environment. It allows you to edit and run human-readable docs while describing the data analysis. It enables you to represent textual information, code, and output in a visually appealing manner. It is very important to know how to format the notebook. The first important thing we are going to look at is the heading. To format the heading and titles, do the following. To have a title, the only thing you're supposed to do is start with a hash followed by the title name. That will give you the title. The next thing is having the heading. So we are going to have our heading in different heading levels. The first heading you use to hash signs followed by the heading name. If you want to have heading 2, you have hash appearing 3 times followed by the heading 2, and so on. If I execute this, that's what you get. The next thing we are going to look at is how to add emphasis on a piece of text. To add bold text, insert text in between a pair of double underscores. For example, we can add 2 underscores before text and double underscore after the text. If you execute this, you realize that the text in between the double underscores has been highlighted in bold. On the other hand, to write italic text, insert text in between a pair of single underscore. And for example, if you add the underscore before the text and an underscore after the text and execute that, you realize that the text in between the underscores has been highlighted in italic. The next important thing we are going to look at here is how to add line break in Jupyter Notebook. To add a line break, add BR, which stands for break, at the end of the line. For example, if I choose to write 3 sentences and I want them to appear in individual lines, then if I execute these, you realize that we get all the 3 sentences in a continuous single line. To ensure that all these appear in separate lines, you'll have to add a line break at the end of each sentence. So if now we try to execute this again, you get all the 3 sentences in individual lines. The next thing we are going to look at is how to add horizontal lines in Jupyter Notebook. On a new line, enter 3 asterisks. For example, if I want to add a line after the first sentence, I'm going to add 3 asterisks on a new line after the first sentence. So if I execute this, we get a horizontal line after the first sentence. The next thing we are going to look at is how to add colors in Jupyter Notebook. To highlight some text in different colors, do the following. You can use this special code to highlight your text in different colors. For example, all you need to do is specify the color in here and make sure that your text is here. If we execute this, we see that our text has been highlighted in different colors. The first text was highlighted in pink, the second one in red, the third one in blue, yellow, and green. The next thing we're going to look at is numbered lists and sublists. To add numbering to text, do the following. 1. For numbering, type a number followed by a dot and a space. For example, If I want to have 3 sentences and each is numbered from 1 to 3, what you should do is add the number followed by a dot and a space. If I execute this, you realize that we'll have a list that has been numbered. Again, we would like to have something like the sublists. Sublists is where we have different form of numbering. To add those, we have to start with a tab space and then type a number followed by a dot and a space. And here we have a normal numbering. Then to add a sublist, you have to start with a tab space followed by a number followed by a dot and a space. And then you can have your text there. If you want to add a deeper subtext, all you need to do is have 2 tab spaces before the number, followed by dot, and then the space. So here, if I run this will look like this. The next important thing we'll do now is how to do text indentation. To display text in an indented block, start the line with this sign or arrow, followed by a space, and then the text. For example, if you just want to have a single indented block, you can have that symbol followed by a space and then the text. If you want a deeper indented text, you use 2 of those arrows. And if you want a more deeper indented text, then you use 3 and so on. If you execute this is what you get. The next thing we are going to look at is how to add monospace font. Monospace font is some text highlighted in a light gray background, and it's mostly used to highlight file paths, user entered messages, file names, etc. For example, to achieve this, we use a single quote on one side of the text and a single quote at the end of the text. And if I execute this is what I get. You can see that this text here, this is a monospace font, has been highlighted in a light gray background. Another very important thing that you should know how to achieve in a Jupyter Notebook is how to add mathematical symbols. To add mathematical symbols, insert the symbols in between the dollar sign. For example, if you want to add a function y is equals to mx plus c, which is a mathematical formula, what you do, you just add the dollar sign before the formula and a dollar sign after the formula. So if I execute this is what you get. And clearly, this looks like a legit mathematical formula, y is equals to mx plus c. The next thing we're going to look at is internal links. Adding internal links to jump to different sections of a notebook. Internal links has 2 components, the source and the destination. For the source, this has to be implemented in the location where you would like to get the clickable link. The format for this is as follows. It should look like this. This is where the text goes and the ID for that link. For the destination, this has to be implemented in the location where you would like to take the user once the user clicks on the link. The format followed for this is you start with a tag, and then you have ID, then you close the tag. This can be followed by whatever content you want, be it text or image. For example, at the destination, you're supposed to have this. For example, if you'd like to have someone to click on a link to go all the way to the top of the page, you're supposed to define this in a cell on top of that page. And the source should have this. First, this is what the link will have, and this is the same as this ID, the name of that ID. For example, we can go ahead and define this. I'm going to copy, and then scroll all the way to the top of the page, and then create that here. This is where now this is a destination. Once I paste that and hit execute, that disappears. You can't even notice that it's there. So going back to the link, now you create this link, the source. Once you execute this, you get this. This is the top of the page. That was the link name. But then there's a link to the top of the page where we defined this handle, the link handle, which is on top of the page. So if I click on the link, the source link, it's gonna take me, jump to the first page or on top of the page. So if I click it, let's see what happens if I click. It jumps to the top of the page. Now, this is very important because sometimes you might want to have content for your Jupyter Notebook and you want to help someone. If they click on a certain link, we're gonna go to a specific section of that notebook. We can go ahead and look at external links. These links, once clicked, they should be able to take you outside the notebook. For example, if you would like to navigate to a personal YouTube channel, for example, here, this is my YouTube channel. What you do, you just define what you want displayed on the link, the clickable link. And then inside these brackets, you have to have your URL. Once I execute, you'll have a clickable link that once clicked is gonna take me to my YouTube channel. And going back to Jupyter Notebook, so we've been able to create external links to refer to a specific web page content in your Jupyter Notebook. We use a library called iframe. So basically, you are supposed to import iframe from ipython.display. What it does, it only helps you to display web content. Now this is where the code that you're able to embed your web page in. So you start with iframe, and note that these I and F are capitalized, and this is where your link goes, the link to that web page. And then the display should be of width 800 and height 450. This it's all up to you. You can have it to be a small one or a bigger one, depending on what you prefer. If, for example, if I execute this, you'll get an output which will be a web page. Suppose now, instead of embedding a web page, we want to embed a PDF document. We will use the same library, iframe, and have the link to be the link to the PDF instead of the web page. And if I do execute this, I'll get the PDF instead. Moving on, you might want to embed a YouTube video in your notebook. And to achieve that, we'll use a library called YouTube videos from IPython display. And to do that, we use the function YouTube video. Note about the capitalization of this word. And here is where you have the YouTube video ID, and the width is 800 and the height is 500. We can go ahead and execute this to see what we get. So basically what happens here, we get a video, a clickable video that I can play. In some cases, you might want to add some graphics or just images to your Jupyter Notebook in a markdown cell. So in this case, to achieve this, ensure that the image that you want to add to Jupyter Notebook is saved in the same working directory as your Jupyter Notebook. So to do this, we have to use this special code that will help you upload a picture, an image. In this case, you can see that it's called img src, and then we have the name of the image plus the extension, which is png image. I want the image to be displayed in these dimensions. Its width of 200 and should be left aligned. I have the image saved in my working directory. So once I execute this, the image will be embedded in my Jupyter Notebook in this particular cell. But because I want the image to be in a new line, I can simply add the line break here after the first sentence. So if I go ahead and execute this, the image will be loaded on this section after the first line here. So I can go ahead and execute that. So you see, we have our image which has been uploaded here and has been left aligned. The next thing we are going to look at is how to change your Jupyter Notebook theme. By default, Jupyter Notebook uses a light theme. There are many themes that you can apply to your notebook, but you have to install them first. We can do it as follows. Launch command prompt from Anaconda distribution. 2. If you do not have pip installed already, run the following command to install it. You can install pip by first running this command on the command prompt. Once you run this, it's going to download a file called get.pip.py. Once you download this, I don't want to do it again because I already have pip on my computer. And once you download it, you're going to run this. You paste it here and hit enter. And that will basically install pip on your computer. Then the next thing you do is install themes. which we're going to achieve by running this command in the command prompt. Remember, the reasons why we were installing pip in earlier is because we needed to run this command, pip install Jupyter themes. Once you run this, you're not going to install the most recent themes. So you have to run this command to get the most recent ones or upgrade to these the most current Jupyter themes. And then to ensure that you have installed the themes correctly in your computer, then you have to run this command, this. And if I run this, it's going to show me all the available themes that I can change to. And then the next step is applying the theme of your choice to your notebook. And this is this is the code that you're supposed to use. But this has to be done on a code cell. If you want to change the theme to Chesterish, you just paste it here and run the cell. Once the cell has been executed, what you need to do, you have to close Jupyter Notebook completely for it to be implemented correctly. So I'm gonna make sure that you save first your work and close Jupyter Notebook. I'll close everything and relaunch Jupyter Notebook. Once I launch it again, this is what you get. And you're gonna open your Jupyter Notebook wherever it's saved. I've saved it under the name Formatting Jupyter Notebook. If I click on it, this is what I get. You see the formatting is now a bit different. To revert back to your default one, this is the code that you use. Exclamation JT hyphen R. This will revert back to the default theme. So all I need to do is run this code. Once I run it, it executes. But remember, for you to get back to your default one, if you make any change to the theme, you have to close and open Jupyter Notebook. So exactly what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna close it and just leave because I haven't made any change. I'm gonna close these two and I'm gonna launch it back. So this is how it looks like. And then I'm gonna go back down here and open my Jupyter Notebook by double clicking on it. And as you can see, I'm back to my default theme. And this is the key to remember when you're trying to change. You have to completely shut down and restart Jupyter Notebook every time you apply a new theme. And thank you for watching. See you in the next part of this Python programming tutorial. And please do remember to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell